Big Roadie Horsemanship, and today I'm here with Chelsea. We're going to do something a little bit different. So Chelsea, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you normally do, because usually when you come you bring your own horses, and I have actually never taught or worked with Chelsea before, so we're both kind of winging it and trial by fire a little bit. So Chelsea, give us your background. What do you do? What do you do with the guys that you bring to Lois?
I've ridden hunter jumpers for the past, probably since I was like 5 years old. So it's basically my whole life. I've never done westerns. This is brand new for me. But I have a pony, a large pony that I'm trying to work with his mannerisms and try to get him because he's trying to get sold. So I don't know.
All right. So I rode hunter jumper pretty much all my life, except for the last 5 years. I've kind of transitioned into riding primarily Western. So this can be a lot of fun for me to help Chelsea kind of see the differences, and I think it's a really good opportunity to explain the differences. First off, I think that riding is riding. You know, no matter what style of riding you're doing, more or less all the same principles apply. When you get into, I think, specified or like a niche, your disciplines like hunter jumper or dressage, I mean, those are both English disciplines, but you ride totally different for both things. So I think this is a really good opportunity to kind of bridge the gap a little bit and help you out. So I want to start by talking about riding hunter jumper. So a hunter jumper sit flag like you would if you were sitting in an English saddle, your hunter jumper. So I don't know if you can see, the hunters, usually your stirrups are what, probably 2 holes too long right now?
They're really short usually.
Yep, so her stirrups are probably 2 holes too long, so you're not going to be able to see quite the difference in her hip angle. Hip angle is a huge thing with the hunters. You tend to be, I can't say it without doing it. You're riding more forward. You don't want to be leaning up your horse's neck, but you're definitely lighter on your pockets. Where in a Western seat, you're gonna be more relaxed, have an open hip angle, and sit on your pockets more. I always thought about seat for riding hunters is when you're sitting, you kind of want even pressure on your seat bones and then forward on your pelvic bone.
Yeah.
You kind of want that even amount of pressure. When I think about a Western seat or riding Western, that pressure is shifted more back just on your seat bone. And you're more relaxed here through your back, where when you have that closed hip angle, it automatically
tightens your.
Yep. So that's the first thing that I want to talk to you about is forget that. Just relax. You can be floppy.
Okay.
I don't know how much equitation you've done. For me, I think relaxing was the hardest part about transitioning, and I still have a hard time with it. Equitation was super ingrained in me, and it's something that I taught a lot of. So that's always something that I still work at and struggle with, is just melting and relaxing. So that's where I want to start. Your leg, it's going to be really similar to the hunters, except that you are going to have a longer leg. And while you're riding, I want you to think about really sitting deep in your pockets and then just letting that weight fall. The other thing I've noticed a lot is the way that you use your leg is totally different. When you're riding English or on a hunter, you tend to kind of always have some sort of pressure there, right?
I don't know, wrap your leg around.
Yep, like you're, so when I think wrap my leg around, I think more of just placing my leg there, but I think about when you're riding the hunters, for me, I always kind of almost always had some sort of pressure, like always creating impulsion, and just kind of holding everything together. So this is going to be just way more relaxed. Yep. You don't need to keep your leg in place, let it move a little bit.
Okay.
I think. And then hands are going to be, show me where you would normally keep your hands. Okay, so you can loosen your reins a little bit. Yep. And same thing, just relax. You're going to keep your hands. I struggled a little bit with having the horn. Like I still, Ricky Bobby hands, don't know what to do with your hands. So I just kind of like to keep them here. I know a lot of times, you know, you're talking about hunters, you hear people want their hands here or you want them up. Just try to stay in this area and relax. I kind of think of like following hands, okay? You know what I mean? Where you're not here, but just be relaxed, be loose. Okay. You can flap your arms a little bit. So now, when you are going to go to walk, we're going to walk off. Think about how would you ask one of your horses to walk off?
Wrap your legs around and squeeze a little.
Okay. What about your seat? Are you going to sit? All right. So, perfect. I'm really glad that you did that and that Max did that. So what did you do? Explain what you did just then without doing it.
Okay. I kind of squeezed a little bit with my calves, and then I sat deeper in the saddle.
Okay. So you squeezed a little bit and sat, and Max was like, what is happening, right? So when you're going to ask him to walk off, I want you to think about asking from your seat first. All right, so because you're really relaxed, I want you to kind of use a little bit of like energy in your body language. Like you've done some groundwork, yes, no? All right, so like think about if you were sending and you want your horse to move off a little bit, you're going to kind of pick your energy up. So same thing, just sitting. Kind of pick your energy up, start in your seat, and then it goes from your seat down is what I like to think about. So go ahead and think about picking up your energy a little bit. Now look where you want to go, not at him. All those rules apply. Relax.
That's hard.
I don't care which direction he goes. So sit and now push forward with your legs and your hands forward. There you go. And just go back to relaxing. All right, so we kind of went over briefly the differences in your seat and your leg, but I really want to break that down and dig a little deeper in. So let's go ahead. We're going to start with differences in the leg, because I think leg and the way that you use your leg is one of the biggest differences going from English to Western. So I think the easiest way to set this up, if you're going to make a turn, if you're going to turn left, how would you do that? What is your first thought?
For English, I would probably use my rein, turn to the left, and then my outside leg squeeze.
Okay, so where are you going to squeeze with your outside leg? Where are you going to put that leg on your horse?
In the calf, like in my calf, and then on their side.
On their side, but like, are you going to move your leg forward at all? Keep it kind of right next to the girth, bring it back?
Probably back a little bit.
Back a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for now, my other question is, if you went to your hand first and your horse turned, would you use your leg at all? Or are you using that leg to kind of reinforce
it would probably be like a second thing. Like I would use my hand first and then my leg would be second choice.
Okay. So my other question with that too is, when you are turning with your hand, what does it feel like? Like, do you feel when you're turning, so say I'm walking and I'm turning a corner, when you turn with your hand, do you feel your horse kind of shift its weight forward? Are they sitting back using their hind end and turning?
They'd be more turning on their forehand, and like I'd be like almost dragging.
Okay, perfect. So that being said, one of those differences is when you're riding Western is you're going to go to your leg first, and the way that you're going to use your leg is a little bit different. So I use my whole entire leg. She said that when she's turning, she's using her leg secondary, and she's just using her calf maybe a little bit behind the girth. So for Western, when I think, okay, I'm going to turn left, I'm going to use my eyes first. Well, so I lied. I'm going to use my eyes first, look to the left, and then I'm going to use my whole leg and push that horse to the left. Now, most of the time, I'm probably going to keep my leg right at the girth for that, and push. I might use my rein if I need to. I'd probably use, most horses, I would probably use my left rein, which would be a direct rein. You could use your right rein to kind of pick up that shoulder and help turn, but most of the time, I would just use, if I'm going to turn to the left, I'm going to use my right leg, my whole right leg, right at the girth, and push my horse through that turn instead of pulling them. So the difference is I don't want my horse to fall on their forehand and then turn. I want my horse to even be a little bit on the hind end. And I think about, so when you're going around the ring, you probably don't think about going in a square. You think about going more in an oval.
Yeah.
So I always think about going in a square. So when I think of a turn, I think of a turn like I'm going to turn a corner. So I want my horse to be more on the hind end, picking themselves up and turning.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I've got here, we'll demonstrate. I've got 4 cones set up, and I want you to think about that. So when you go to make these turns, you're thinking about a corner. You're going to ride a square and not an oval. And this is something too, like we're talking about relating back and forth from English to Western. You do hunters, you jump a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
This will help your corners jumping.
Okay.
Do you have, like, I don't know what your horses go like, but do you ever feel like you drift or motorcycle through your turns?
Yeah.
This is a super exercise for that.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna walk. I want you to go ahead and look at this first cone. And as you're looking at it, when you go to get to it, you're gonna turn like a big look, not like a glance. To the next cone,
Okay.
right leg is gonna push him over.
Okay.
All right, so whoop, freeze. What did you do? Did you feel yourself do that?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I pulled.
Yep. So we're gonna get him walking. How about you just walk and start with that far one? Yep, that far one.
Okay.
When he walks off, it doesn't matter which direction he goes because you can control his feet, right?
Yeah.
So just get him walking first and then put him where you want him.
Okay.
You're already micromanaging.
I know.
So
I need to like
I
just
feel you. So we're gonna go there. Go ahead, look behind you. And walk. Use that right leg, shove him over. Look, look, look. Don't that right. There you go. So let's talk about one other thing before we do this again. We're going to talk about rein length. So go ahead and show us how you would normally, what length you would normally have your reins at.
for hunters.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So these reins are pretty short. They're not, I've seen people that ride hunters have their hands literally here.
Tight. Yeah.
Constant contact. But you just have, you have a light feel is what I would call that. So I want you, no, I don't even want you to go that long necessarily. It's more important to me that you can move your hands around and have control. So
Okay.
if you can go on a looser rein and still be able to be effective and guide your horse, that's great. If you need to shorten your reins a little bit, that's fine too.
Okay.
It just kind of depends. It's really about being comfortable moving your hands. And I think that was something that was really hard for me because you think about, you know, that equitation where you're always here, your hands don't move, your body doesn't move. I want you smooth.
Okay.
Those hands, you need to be able to adjust. Where if you need to shorten up quickly, you can, but if you need to lengthen or you're comfortable lengthening, that's okay too.
Okay.
Now, the other thing with Western, there's so many different kind of disciplines within a discipline. So if you're riding Western pleasure, that length is going to be different. You're in a snaffle bit here versus being in a real brattle or a shank bit. That's going to be different. You're going to have a longer rein because that is a much different, the way that bit works is totally different. So I didn't throw you to the fire too much for giving you a shank bit today. So we're going to try that again. Now the other thing, so how do you think that first time around went?
A little rough.
A little
but-
rough. So what do you feel like that you could do a little different? We're going to have a game plan before we go into it this time.
I feel like this will be a little bit more like make me feel more secure, but at the same time I need to like just think like
So
almost
having
just,
shorter reins is going to help you feel more secure?
Yeah.
Okay.
but at
think
the same
about-
time just keep them like still. I cannot like necessarily use them.
So I don't want you to think about keeping them still because when
Okay.
you think about keeping them still, like, go ahead, think about keeping him still. Yes. Did you feel
You get
yourself
tense.
tighten up?
Yeah.
So you're going to stay relaxed. Your hands can move. That's the point.
Okay.
Because you might need to move your hands. But it's the pulling instead of pushing.
Okay.
When you just pull, he's going to blow that shoulder and that rib cage out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We're talking, we started it off camera about, Lois is over here. Lois joined the party. She's not in the video because my dog made her fall down and got her pants really muddy. Welcome to Be Gritty. So, our herd of dogs. And so we're talking about how difficult the change is. And Chelsea's been riding for what, maybe like 30 minutes?
Yeah.
And she's already kind of like, well, this is so different. So it started talking about, Lois made a comment about her heels. And in English riding, it is literally from day one ingrained in your brain, heels down, heels down, heels down. It is, and it's not, there's no explanation as to why you're putting your heels down or how you should put your heels down. It is literally just shove your heel down as hard as you can and hold on.
And as an instructor, with kids, when you say that, they do whatever. They just think about shoving those heels down
Right,
if you
so-
don't explain it.
Yeah, and it creates this, shove your heel down.
So that
Yes.
makes them shove into the
I don't know
stirrup.
if you can zoom in on that and see, but it makes you shove into the stirrup. And when you are in a more forward seat, you can get by with it because it's really helping you balance a little bit because you don't have that weight in your seat that you do here. But when you have your weight in your seat here and you're shoving into that heel, you are driving your horse forward, but you're driving them forward in a hollow way, where what you should be doing, yes, is wrapping your legs around, picking up that rib cage, keeping that pressure with your leg like you're hugging them to round that back to push them forward.
And you don't want to pull your leg back and exaggerate it, but in Western you want your leg kind of under your seat. Because when you shove your leg forward in your stirrup and off their sides, with a good broke Western horse, that means whoa. Whoa or back.
They are
Okay.
going to sit
And
down.
stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, Max has really great stop. And the first time so we were talking about all the differences. The first time Lois threw me to the fire on a Western horse was Nikki. Close. Was Nikki. And I'd seen Nikki go, and this was kind of what got my interest, and it looked like a lot of fun. Nikki is a reiner. She's an old reiner now, but that is her training. And I'd watched a couple lessons Lois was teaching with her, and I said, I want to try that. And she laughed and said, okay. And I have never stopped like that before in my life. It gave me a completely new meaning to the word stop. So that's another difference. Like if you're riding and you want your horse to stop and you say whoa, how long does it take your horse from the time you said whoa to the actual stop?
Nikki, it takes -2 seconds.
Yeah, you're thinking it,
Yeah,
and
it takes us longer.
her ass is in the ground. So if you said whoa, you probably get like what, 3 strides at least before
Yeah.
there's usually some downward transition. You know, if you're cantering, trot step, bounce it down to a walk. You're gonna go from like a working canter or almost a hand gallop is what an English person would call it, to dragging her butt in the ground, like right
Well,
now.
Nikki would take you from a flat out run
Yes.
down
to
the middle of the arena
Dang.
to,
Slide and stop.
yeah. You take your leg off and sit and say whoa, and she's on her ass sliding.
Cool. I want to try.
Yeah, it's super fun. It is super fun. I told you we would convert you before the day's over. So yeah, and I think that's another thing too, is when you think about a broke horse and the expectations that you have in your horse. That was one of the things that really drew me to horsemanship in general, is it's a different expectation of your horse. Where for my whole life it was okay to say whoa and not actually stop for 3 or 4 strides. Now if I say whoa,
Whoa means whoa.
I meant it 2 strides before I said it.
Whoa should also mean back.
Yep.
I was gonna say, because that's kind of what we're working on. Is like I was using more of my hands too, asking to whoa,
Yeah.
and now I've used more of my body, and it's like a faster command than using your hands. Like your hands take forever.
And so the having a good stop, when I think about whoa now, I don't think about whoa, I think about ride back.
Okay.
And then somewhere in there is where you get that back, the stop, not the back rather. Because you ride, normally going from English to Western, you would think, all right, I've got to stop, I've got to stop, I've got to stop, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, whoa. But now it's changed my mentality that I think, okay, I need to stop at X, ride, 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 stop.
Yeah.
And by pushing and having that, and so that's another thing. Going from English to Western, like with Max loves your leg. He wants you to have a constant like hug with your leg. He really just likes to be there and likes that. Where I think with English, the leg is more of a nag. You're kind of on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, right? Does that make sound familiar? But with him, that being said, the second that you take your leg off, he stops. That to him it starts with your leg there. The second that you take your leg off and start to, he's done.
Another thing you were just talking about the back. In English horses that I've seen, the majority, when they stop them, it's more of a stop on the forehand. You guys are leaning a little forward, pulling on that face, concentrated on pulling them to a stop. So you're not thinking about the hind end. With a Western horse,
like
it's more you're driving that hind end into the stop. So you actually put more leg on for a good sliding stop and kind of pick up that rib cage so they can elevate. And when that leg comes off, they kind of drive that ass right into the ground. So it's a totally different stop. You're riding more hind end. You're riding what's behind you, not what's in front of you. English, they ride more of what you can see.
Yeah.
Western, you ride what's under you and behind you.
And so same thing, but talking about that, like I for a long time heard a lot of people talking about, oh, engage the hind end, like you need more hind end. But I don't think, I'm not going to say everybody, but there is a lot of people out there, especially in the hunters, where you want this kind of long and low sweeping step, that those horses are all pulling themselves from their shoulder. They're not using any hind end. And I kind of thought about, well, why? Because it makes a better horse. If they're using their hind end, you're going to get rid of soundness issues. And it's because English people don't know how to put their ass in the saddle. You know, like that's, I always think about my hind end is driving their hind end. I can create energy in their hind end with my hind end. I can take away energy from their hind end with my hind end. Does that make sense? And I also kind of think too about, like we're talking, going back to this steering in a box and how we don't pull, we push. So I think about like you have energy, right? Like there has to be energy coming from somewhere, but I can control that energy. I think about keeping my horse in a box. Like you talk about a frame a lot English. I think about it like a box now. So I've got my energy creates from my seat and my legs, right? I keep that energy in the box. If the energy starts to come this way, I'm going to use if the energy is coming left, I'm going to use my left leg and push that energy back to the middle. And now I might have to use my left and right leg together to keep that energy in the middle. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So, you know, you're always thinking about, so for an example, if I'm jumping a line, I'm jumping into a line. For those of you that don't know, a line is 2 jumps in a row with a few strides between them. We're going to talk about a 5-stride line. So if I'm coming into that line and I'm dead in the center and I land it and my horse drifts to the right, what's your first instinct if that's you? Forget everything we've said.
Yeah,
What is
I'll
your
use
first
my
instinct?
hand and then my outside leg, so the right leg, to try and push him back over.
Okay. Now, you're doing that, but you're also probably doing that here, right?
Yeah.
Instead of being here and able to push that over.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really important, and riding Western and having this understanding changed the way I ride an English horse now too. So instead of going to my hand, when I go to my hand and I'm already forward, we already said earlier that when you go to pull, your horse wants to turn more on the front end, right?
Yeah.
So I am putting more weight on my horse's front end by me being there, and I'm pulling, which is just gonna bring my horse here, and I have a jump in 4 strides, right? It's probably gonna take at least 1 to get that. So you're probably gonna eat it at that jump, right?
Yeah.
Versus being able to sit down, keep that energy in the box with your seat and your legs.
Okay.
And have that push. Does this make sense? Lois looks very perplexed.
Yeah, but so, and that's not even English or Western.
Well,
you
that's
should
riding, but
you should be riding your horse forward, and you should be controlling the hind end so you can put your horse anywhere you want.
yes.
So if you're concentrating on pulling your horse here and there, you're not riding again what's behind you or underneath you. So if you're loping or cantering, jumping, whatever. No, I'll stay on the ground. But if you jump a jump and you have 5 strides, well, you should be concentrating on riding your horse forward in those 5 strides. Not, is he going to go left or right? The more you use your mind and
Yes.
ride your horse's body forward, he's going to think forward and go forward. If you're just staring at that jump and thinking, holy crap, I hope he doesn't go right, I hope he doesn't go right, he's going right.
Yeah. Well, I just meant that too. Like if you land
Right,
and then it
but-
does happen. Yes, you have to be
Yes.
focused on going
But that's
forward.
with anything, like going down the trail. If you want your horse to go right down the middle of the trail, you ride your horse. You ride your horse's hind end down the middle of the trail.
Right.
You don't pull them left or right and hold them in the middle. You ride that body forward and correct if something happens.
Right.
So that's kind of a horsemanship thing too.
Right.
You can talk English or Western, but that's a little more horsemanship.